Okay, I think firstly there should be a really important recognition, I think, which is not the way that the Syrian war, a civil war, is constructed in Western media generally, and that is that this is has been and is almost World War III. Because all the world's major players are in there, and that is part of the huge challenge that Rojava faces, and with some deft footwork has managed to keep all of them on site, it feels like, but yet only on a very temporary basis. So if I can just run through the list of countries that are, involved there. So you've got Turkey, who's got a real hatred of the Kurdish revolution because they have their own Kurdish problems, and the Kurdish population there have been trying to set up and have done under the radar the same co-mayor principle and parallels to the state structures, because again the state isn't delivering services to them, and it's been crushed. Mayors, all the mayors have been arrested, and so on and so forth. So there's Turkey, and they've been funding both and arming both ISIS and the Syrian rebels. There's Saudi that have been arming certain factions. Obviously, there's Assad. There's Russia. There's America. And behind the US coalition, there's Britain and Europe. There's Qatar. You name it. They're all in there. And of course, let's not forget Iran. And at the moment, from what I understand, the fighting has shifted to Deir ez-Zor, and they are coming under fierce attack. This is Rojava is coming under fierce attack from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, or a front for that, or units, of basically of the Iranian government, who are obviously supporting Assad. So, and Rojava's strength is its weakness, because 80% of Syria's oil and gas reserves are based in Rojava. So you can see why everybody wants a piece of the action. Rojava itself says that they have not and they will not sell the oil like KRG has done to Turkey and to other places, because they see it as a resource and a wealth for all the Syrian people to share. So they've been using it obviously to fund, for their own society, for their economy and so on and so forth. But they have not been exporting that oil. Now, that's one issue of how is that going to resolve. Assad has on one hand declared that he wants to have his sovereignty back across the whole of Syria. But on the other hand, apparently one of his ministers said that they are prepared to talk to DFNS, Rojava, and to come to some sort of settlement. Whether you can trust Assad or not is a whole other question. Russia seems to have given them some assurances as well. America and the West have been totally cynical in the way in which they've provided support, because they had one agenda. They wanted to make sure that ISIS was vanquished from Syria. And so they were only interested in militarily supporting the Kurds and DFNS. They have not provided any other material support that is necessary. The YPJ and the YPG have been the most reliable boots on the ground. And once they prove their mettle, because for the first 2 years, from 2012 to 2014, basically the Kurdish people were having to defend themselves with very little support from anywhere. But when they began to turn it around in Kobani, then the Americans realized that they were actually a good military ally, a reliable, disciplined, ethical. I think, we mustn't forget that it's an ethical force. The way in which they enter villages, the caution that they exercise, etc. Regardless of what criticism they've received on that front, they're actually a very ethical force. So the Americans, provided that military cover in order to, air cover, basically, essentially. But although in the latter stages there have also been American soldiers on the ground in the form of training and so on. But of course, everything that Rojava stands for is anathema to America because they're opposed to capitalism. America is not, if anything, America can more tolerate ISIS ideology because it gives it an enemy to fight. But what Rojava represents as an alternative to capitalism is actually, for anyone who is supportive of that system, extremely dangerous. So because I've been thinking about this question a lot, and I felt that everything hinged on the fall of Raqqa. My worry was that America would shit on Rojava from a very great height as soon as Raqqa fell. But, everything is still in play, everything is still in balance. So we haven't seen that yet. And because America and Turkey are NATO partners, and because Turkey has been so unhappy with American assistance to the Kurds, as soon as the American strategic goals are met in Syria, they're going to withdraw all support from Rojava. And I can't tell you what the future holds. I mean, I think it is incredibly fragile. And I think the government, the DFNS government or administration has been incredibly clever in balancing different interests and saying, we are here for one purpose alone. We are not an aggressive force. We are a defensive force. We want to set up these autonomous areas where everybody is respected, can live in peace and harmony and all of that. And but they are looked at with suspicion as well because a lot of the democratic opposition to Assad, Syrian Democrats, are extremely suspicious of Rojava and where that's heading. So they have no real friends even amongst the left in Britain, and not just the left that you were talking about, but also the feminist, pacifist left who are suspicious of, women's rights being delivered at the barrel of a gun. So the struggle to have that message heard, because when I came back from Rojava, I thought, how can anybody oppose this system? How can anybody progressive oppose this? And then I found all these pockets of sectarian thinking, a lot of it misinformed, and not giving this hope, this society a chance to breathe and to survive and to and to come into its own. So it has enemies on the world stage of major powers, or at least, if not enemies, people who are not interested in their future. They're interested in their geopolitical interests in that area. So how they are going to negotiate all of these different forces, I cannot tell you. I mean, they have survived now for 5 years. Is it 5? Almost 6, from say 2011. 2012 they announced their revolution, so let's say 5 years. So they've survived 5 years in these difficult circumstances. Will they continue to survive? I certainly hope so.